Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on part of the world that you reside in. Welcome to the Radisson Hotel Group's very unique Career Fest, which is a virtual event where all of you can explore immense job opportunities and advance your careers. I am Harpreet Singh Chatwal. I'm the Vice President of People and Culture for Middle East and Africa, CIAP, and South Asia. I'm based here in Dubai. I have been with the company for 16 years across three companies and love being part of RHG. I'm very excited today to have you join in for this Mentor Moments session. The purpose of today's session is to explore how mentorship can shape personal and professional growth. And I'm so proud and privileged that I am joined in by two very accomplished leaders who will share their journeys and the impact mentorship has had on their careers. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping rules. The session will last for 30 minutes. You are encouraged to submit any questions directly in the chat throughout the session, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as the timing allows. So, allow me to introduce our two incredible speakers. Today, I have with me Inge. Inge is our Chief Sustainability and Security Officer for the Radisson Hotel Group, based in Brussels, developing the Sustainability and Safety and Security Program for the group. In 2024, Inge was included for the third year in the global top 100 women in sustainability and has been named twice as the 100 most influential people in global hospitality. And then I have great privilege to introduce Tim Cotton. Tim is our Chief Operating Officer for the Radisson Hotel Group for Middle East and Africa and Southeast Asia Pacific, based here in Dubai. Tim has been with the Radisson Hotel Group for 20 years, starting from the United Kingdom and then moved to Middle East a decade back. Winner of several hospitality and leadership awards, and often when we don't know what to do, he's the man to go to. So that's important for us, and I'm very, very happy that we all could be together in this forum. And now let's dive in straight into their experiences. All right, so Inge and Tim, we'll dive into your career journeys now. Inge, will start with you if you allow me. If you could share a brief career synopsis and what have been some key milestones in your careers, and then we'll hear it from Tim before we jump into the mentoring piece of it.
Yes, with great pleasure. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you, with Harpreet and Tim and everyone on the line. It's an exciting moment and we love our company, so it's great to talk about our careers in the company. So personally, I've been in sustainability for 20 years and 14 of those have been with Radisson. So I started as the Director of Sustainability for EMEA, so a big region in the world, but regional and only sustainability. And then thanks to the interaction with leadership, I became the global VP for sustainability first. And then 6 years ago, I added security and safety to my portfolio. And 3 years ago, I added corporate communication and institutional affairs. So actually, it's an expansion of the role, both in geography and in expertise. And I must tell you, adding new fields of expertise, these growth moments were actually quite a step. First, from going from EMEA to becoming global and incorporating the relations with the Americas and with Asia Pacific, and then incorporating other fields, very, very specialist fields that were also quite male dominated, I must say, in safety and security when I started there 6 years ago. It's a bit different now, but then it was purely male dominated. And then corporate communications and institutional affairs 3 years ago. So each of those have presented their challenges. And I'm happy to talk on who helped me and how mentoring actually played a role in that.
That's fantastic, Inge. What a stellar career and going strong. Tim, may we hear from you now?
I suppose my career in hospitality started with a lesson in advanced applied mathematics, because I was at university studying mechanical engineering, and I kind of had this epiphany that this just wasn't what I wanted to do. And all the time I was at university and before that as well at school and so on, I'd always been working in restaurants and bars and cafes and so on, and eventually in a hotel. And something just bit me, and I loved it. And I loved it so much. I used to come to work, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours early sometimes, just because I wanted to be involved and learn more about the business. So that's really how I got into hotels. A bit of a unusual way in. I did finish my degree. Just for those people listening, it's still worth it. The life experience is fantastic. But yeah, that's how I got into hospitality, and then very quickly set my sights on being a general manager. And I've been very lucky in my career that I've had some wonderful mentors and some great leaders support me. So I was able to become a general manager fairly early in my sort of mid-20s, and then spent a decade or so running different hotels, mainly in the UK, going from smaller ones to slightly bigger to really big ones. And then, and as you said, about 10 years ago, just more than 10 years ago, I moved to Dubai and eventually took up a regional role, which a bit like Ingi, really. We grew from being a Middle East-based role to then a bit more of the Middle East, and then a few countries in the Middle East, then the whole of the Middle East, and then the whole of Middle East, and then the whole of Africa as well. And now it's Middle East, Africa, and also Southeast Asia Pacific. And I love the diversity of those countries. I love the diversity of the wide space that we're trying to manage, and the challenges it brings. That gets me out of bed every morning. So I still feel very passionate about this industry and about my role.
Fantastic, Tim. You've had a stellar career too. And something very interesting you pointed out.
Not had. It's still going on.
Because the next part of your career is going to be super stellar. So that was my reference. Nevertheless, you said something very interesting, Tim. I mean, you've studied mechanical engineering, and then your love for hospitality started, which brings us to this very interesting point that now, yes, academic qualifications are really important. However, that doesn't really determine what career you will have and how successful you will be in the career you choose. So the shift is probably happening from academic qualifications to more skill-based and more competency-based. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. I think having a higher education is great for some people, but not for everybody. And I don't think people should feel like they absolutely have to do further education or higher education, at least not to degree level, if they don't believe that's the right fit for them. Having said that, I think when people do it, it offers a lot. You get to think in a different way and apply your knowledge in a different way, which helps you in life generally, regardless of what career direction you want to go in. And what I also see today is that more and more changing lanes in your life, in your career life, is possible, and more possible. So you might do, like I did, mechanical engineering, and then even get into the first role or two in that field, and then decide, actually, this isn't for me. And it's easier than it ever has been to be able to swap lanes into a different industry, like hospitality, for example.
Absolutely, I cannot agree more. All right, so now we'll shift gears a little bit and start to focus on mentorship. I'll be asking a few questions on how mentees can seek out the right mentors and truly benefit from these relationships. Inge, over to you. How has mentoring played an important role in your career?
I think, of course, a career is helped by people who believe in you, and that, I think, within Radisson has absolutely been the case. It's the first time that I have been able in any company to start out with a certain role, and by the belief that people had in me, make you grow. So on one hand, you need to cultivate, I would say, these internal relations and just do your job well, right? That's one thing. The other thing is, the key thing when I have gotten new responsibilities, I must say it's scary at first. It's scary to say, oh, how am I going to do sustainability for the Americas and for Asia Pacific regions that at that time, of course, you read about, but you're not necessarily an expert in. Or when all of a sudden I had this big safety and security portfolio, which is crisis management, which in a big international organization, as you can imagine, it's a big responsibility to also be responsible for the lives and the safety of our guests and our team members around the world. So that was scary. And every time something like that happens, I have a natural tendency to do two things. One is believe in yourself that you can do it. And secondly, is ask yourself, how can I do it? And who can help me with that? Because I think it's very, very important to have that positive attitude, but to also have that open attitude to saying, listen, I don't know everything. I'm starting in this new step in my career, is to ask for help or just to ask for advice. And that advice is something that I have happily taken at each of those steps. There were different kinds of advisors that I reached out to. There were sometimes internal people, or even the person who promoted me or who I would be reporting to just say, listen, I may need your advice on this or that, or how would you handle this or that? Or people outside the organization. Like, for example, when I took the safety and security role, I reached out to the CEO of the biggest industry association on safety and security. I didn't necessarily know him, but I got introduced to him and I asked for advice. I just said, listen, I may need your advice from time to time. And I think that attitude of, yes, I can do it. Trust was placed in me. I'm going to be able to do this, but how do I do it well and who can help is what helped me um, through these steps. Because mentors don't necessarily come to you. You need to be open and humble and willing to ask for that advice.
That's very well summarizing, and I cannot agree more. Number one, believing in yourself, and number two, don't be shy to ask for help. All right, moving back to Tim. Tim, what would you say is the key to finding a great mentor, as you've had a few good of them?
I agree and echo a lot of what Ingi's already said. I think what I'd add to that is that we have an advantage in hotels. If you work in a hotel, it's like working with a family. So you get to know the team around you really, really well, and that means that you can understand who you get on with, perhaps, but also who you respect and who is really good at their jobs. And when somebody's really good at something, whatever that is in life, usually they're pretty happy to share that knowledge and to talk about it. So finding those people who you respect and admire and think, wow, the decision making they have or the skills they have in that particular area are really something special. Have the confidence to go up to them and say, how did you do that? How did you learn these things? How would you do this? I'm confronted with this challenge. And and normally, if you've got the right people involved anyway, they're delighted to be able to share their wisdom, their history, their knowledge in a supportive way. And I think what Ingi said is absolutely correct. It's unusual for people who are able to be a mentor to wander around a business kind of saying, would you like to be mentored? How about you? Would you like to be mentored? That's not the way the world works. But I think if you, as an employee, and you're looking to grow your career and you want to be able to grow yourself as a person as well, I think, first of all, work hard and be valuable to the business. Secondly, show interest in areas outside of your role. So if your role is specifically in, I don't know, front office in a hotel, or I'm using a hotel as an example, there's absolutely nothing that stops you saying, I'd like to learn about how you run a restaurant. I'd like to learn how do you work in accounts? I don't understand what you guys do down there. And those people who in those departments, usually if you find the right ones, will be delighted to show you. And then all of a sudden, your value to the business is massively enhanced because you know all these departments. And at the same time, you're working hard, you're doing a good job. And then you say to the leaders of the business, can you show me this? Can you explain that to me? How do we do that? And before you know it, you're this very valuable, high performing employee who's also showing an interest in furthering themselves within that business with the people who are the leaders of that business. And I think that's, at least in my experience, a very successful way of creating a relationship with the senior leadership of the business that you're in. And that then leads to a mentoring relationship and a mentoring environment in most cases.
Fabulous, Tim. And when I listen to you, I actually reflect back on my own career, and there are some obviously very common themes which I believe we all have. Moving on, Inge, my next question is to you. What's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Well, yes, I'm actually not the one to look back in regret. So I think there's more like lessons learned from key moments in my career. And actually there's two things that I apply and still apply today. One is lean in. It's a famous book by Sheryl Sandberg, who used to be the COO of Facebook. And leaning in means ask for a seat at the table. And so one defining moment for me, which helped me to get promoted from director to VP of sustainability, was when there was a big event being organized for the leaders in the company, and sustainability was not at the table, was not asked to be at the table. And then in a preparation meeting with the CEO, I asked why. So I was leaning in to say, listen, I think for this and this and this reason, even though I'm not at the right level, I should be there because XYZ. And that's what then started actually everything of the promotions. It was the first step. So it enabled to position the field that I was at in a different way and to ask for a seat at a table. The other thing is, the second thing that I still apply today is there's a right time for everything. We all are, you may be ambitious, or as Tim was saying, and that's a great example, eager to learn, right? Or you may put, you're enthusiastic in your role and you put a new project forward, a breakthrough thing, something that is an innovation or something that makes your work being organized in a different way. First is don't be shy to do that. But if it doesn't get accepted right away, don't give up. Don't give up. Because the point is, if you are convinced that this is a good project, maybe you find some allies. Maybe you move to another hotel in the Radisson world where this becomes relevant. Maybe you get another boss who thinks of this in a different way. Maybe the external context changes. So this innovation or whatever you want to do becomes relevant. I would say don't give up, because maybe the minds need to mature on the subject that you are bringing forward. So in terms of taking initiative, I see sometimes that younger people, they try and then they give up. Or other people, doesn't have to be young people. I don't think you should give up. I think you should try if your idea is good and just wait for the right moment, build a better argumentation, see what the context is. And that's how big projects actually get done and initiated.
That's fabulous, Inge. So what I take away from this is keep doing your bit, keep working hard, and then wait for the right opportunity to kind of lean in your terms.
Lean in or create it, right? Sometimes you can create that opportunity and seize the moment, or just because sometimes when you are advocating for something like sustainability or better safety in a context, sometimes the minds are not ready for that. If you talk about net zero, when we started talking about net zero, which is just after the pandemic, people were not, our leadership was not focused on it because we were all about the survival of the business. But look at now, we are committed to becoming net zero by 2050. We're doing breakthrough projects. And that's just because the message needed to mature. So I think it's the leaning in and being sure of your message and trying to develop it further and not giving up.
Perfect. Thank you, Inge. My next question is to you, Tim. We've talked about mentor-mentee relationship, and now we know it's a very global world. So the mentor could be sitting in one part of the world, and the mentee could be sitting in another part of the world. And there are a lot of virtual platforms that we leverage in. What, according to you, could maintain a strong mentor-mentee relationship despite the fact that both are sitting in very diverse and different geographies?
That's a good question. It is more challenging, I think, to have because mentoring is somewhat personal in its nature, right? And it needs to be bespoke. So you need to know each other, not just the mentor knowing the mentee, but they need to know each other quite well. So forming that relationship virtually is a bit more challenging. But eventually, it's about the honesty of both individuals. So if the mentee's expectations are not realistic, for example, then the mentor has a responsibility to be honest about that. Say that's not realistic, and this is why, and have those difficult conversations. And so there's honesty, but also the quality of the conversation, and the quality of the advice, and the quality of the back and forth. And that is something that can happen whether it's on a phone or a video call or in person. So those fundamentals don't really change so long as the relationship's set up in the right way.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. Inge, my next question is to you. We usually talk about mentor qualities. However, what qualities have you experienced in good mentees? I know you already spoke about your career and what the things that you have done to get a seat on the table. However, putting things in perspective, what is that this thing for our mentees today?
I would say there's a couple of things as a mentee, especially when you're mentoring or you ask someone more senior to mentor you in certain topics. I think it's be specific, because be specific about what you want to learn or what you want to achieve. And that could be different in different steps in your career. So when asking yourself that question, what do I want to learn? What am I uncertain about? And what is the answer that I'm actually seeking, or the advice that I'm seeking? And be specific in expressing that. I think also, if especially in the topic that you just brought to the table, Harpreet, is this remote mentoring. If you're not in the same location, also apply some structure to what works for a mentor. Like kind of ask, that maybe I may want some time with you every month. Is that okay? Can we find 10 minutes every month or 15 minutes every month? Just make sure that you express that structure in your approach, and then also arrive prepared. And that's basically, I would say, advice for a relationship with any executive anywhere around the world. If I want to talk to a big politician who I haven't talked to, I come prepared. I know what my elevator pitch is going to be. I know what I'm going to say. So in that sense, show the respect for the relationship that you have by coming prepared and by applying some specificity and structure to it.
Fabulous. So having the courage to ask, and then also putting in the bit of work that's required from your end by coming prepared and doing your homework first. So I think that's very, very valuable for all our invitees today. We're almost coming towards the end of our session. We yet have a couple of minutes, and we have some exciting questions that have come up. So please allow me to open the Q&A floor now. And one of the questions that comes up, what a coincidence, I already had that question for Tim. And that question has come up in the chat as well from one of our invitees, which is, and I'll ask this question, put this question to Tim. I'm not from hospitality. Can I still have a very good career in hospitality?
Why not? I mean, absolutely. I wasn't from hospitality once, and I am now. I think with Radisson, we're one of the fastest growing hotel companies in the world. Just in my corner of the world, well, quite a big corner, I guess, Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, we'll open another 10 hotels between now and the end of the year. That's basically one a week. And each one of those hotels needs a leadership team. It needs employees. It needs the teams to run the business, and it's going to have a big impact in the cities and locations where those hotels will open. So we're always looking for talent, and we have a very open mind about what the history of that talent is, where you've worked before. What is critical though is the attitude and the approach you bring to the business, because that's far more important. We can teach skills, right? If you never worked in a hotel and you're not sure what a chinois is, right? Well, good. I'm happy you don't know what that is. It's a type of very fine sieve you use in the kitchen. But if you don't know what a chinois is, that's fine. We can teach you that. I just taught you that. But what I can't teach you is the attitude and the approach that you bring and the enthusiasm for the business, and that's really, really important. So that's what I would say. And sorry, just the last thing. The most important thing when you want to switch businesses like this, as well as being enthusiastic for the things I said, particularly in hotels, I think it's very valuable if you're prepared to move around. And for anybody on this call, working internationally absolutely one of the best life experiences I can possibly recommend to you. The world is a huge place full of opportunities. And if you only work in one country, only live in one country, I think you're only seeing a very small part of it. So I fully encourage you to take that brave step and look at roles outside of your home or country that you're living in today.
Fantastic. That's very well summarized, Tim. The next question again is somewhat related to what we just discussed, Tim. So maybe I'll quickly ask you this one, which is I do not come from a traditional hospitality background of kitchen or food and beverage or rooms. If I am in finance or if I'm in HR or engineering, can I still become a general manager?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Some of our best general managers come from finance or from revenue, also from the kitchen, from food and beverage. It's a broad church, and we also have some general managers who have come into the business at quite a senior level straight away, and within quite a short period of time, they're general managers. So there's definitely many examples of that. I hope that
Wonderful.
helps.
Inge, my last question to you, and then we'll quickly summarize. How does Radisson Hotel Group support career growth when there are different cultures and different religions and different nationalities at work?
I would say very well. Look at us. We are in different places. We're from different
Exactly.
parts in the world, and we are very close colleagues. I would say we have, of course, our beliefs. We are many mindsets in a company with one mind. So we really work towards that diversity and honoring diversity. This is what makes us stronger as a company. So we have it in our core beliefs. We have it in our policies and programs. We are focusing on cultural diversity, gender diversity, other types of diversity. And that is what makes us richer, because also our teams are from everywhere and our guests are from everywhere. And I would say we're also a company that wants to pioneer. Look, my career, I've said it, I was one of the first female chief security officers in the business and in many businesses. We have female general managers, and Tim and Harpreet can speak to that, in places where it is not something that is very common. So we are actually all about cultural and other diversity in our company, because we bank on talent and we support each other.
Absolutely. Thank you, Inge. We've almost come to the end of our session, and I cannot be more thankful to both of you. 30 minutes is not enough to kind of go back, reflect on your career, and offer a lot of advices. And I hope our audience and invitees today find some valuable information. Thank you very much, Inge. Thank you very much, Tim. And just to quickly summarize, my key takeaways are four words today. The first one being relationships. Be at what level you are in an organization or whether you are studying, managing relationships positively is a key aspect to advance your career. Second is courage to ask whether you don't know something, whether you want to clarify something. So have the courage to ask. Step out of your comfort zone. When was the last time that you did something for the first time? So that phrase really motivates me a lot. And then, of course, once you've done all these three, have patience, keep the perseverance and the persistence, and wait for the right time. So those are some of the key takeaways for me, and I'm very positive that our audience today would have had some tangible takeaways which they will be able to implement across their careers. So with that, thank you very much, and have a great day, Inge and Tim, and all our guests and all our invitees who've joined us today. Have a great day too.